Okay, buddy, what do you think of Wilkins coffee?
I never tasted it.
Now, what do you think of Wilkins?
In 1957, a young man named Jim Henson was approached by an advertising agent named Helen Verstandig. Verstandig was sent by John Wilkins Jr., who was at the time the head of the Wilkins Coffee Company, and was, according to those close to him, very interested in the possibilities of advertising. Henson, at the time, was an employee of WRC-TV, producing the wildly popular Sam and Friends program, which Wilkins was a fan of. Wilkins, his business threatened by national competition such as Maxwell House, saw an opportunity and sent Verstandig to discuss making commercials for the company. Henson agreed. The commercials had to be simple. Advertisements could only be 10 seconds long, 2 of which were to show a still of the product. The strict time limit was due to FCC regulations for station identification, which were also 10 seconds long. Whereas many would find this very difficult to work with, Henson was undaunted, and he and his team soon got to work. Henson soon came up with the basic premise of the commercials. There were to be 2 puppets, one named Wilkins, who loved Wilkins coffee, and Wontkins, who did not. Wilkins would ask Wontkins whether or not he liked Wilkins coffee.
Why are we climbing this tree?
For Wilkins coffee.
And when Wontkins said that he didn't,
I don't want any.
something bad would happen to him. These unfortunate events ranged from being physically beaten or injured,
What's the club for?
to even being shot
I've got a can of Wilkins coffee.
or snapped out of existence.
If you don't drink Wilkins coffee, you're not all there.
Oh, that's a lot of...
In fact, without Wilkins coffee, you're nowhere.
The commercials proved to be a major success for both Wilkins and Jim, even being positively mentioned in a rant about the quality of television by then U.S. Senator of Maryland, John Marshall Butler, in which he stated that the commercials were, quote, the only clever advertising on the air. It pleases rather than irritates the television audience, and I am happy to learn that this series is bringing increased sales to its sponsor. Likewise, a poll conducted by the Washington, D.C. Evening Star found a similar result, writing, quote, John H. Wilkins Jr. of the Wilkins Coffee Company can be proud of the overwhelming endorsement of Washington area viewers of his Muppet TV spots. The Wilkins commercials, which he conceived, are easily the favorite of voters in this area. The puppets proved so popular that vinyl puppets were produced, given away when you sent in $1 in the lid to a can of Wilkins, with a total of 25,000 of these being given away. Jim, meanwhile, soon began receiving offers for Wilkins and Wontkins to push products for other brands across the country, and started reshooting commercials with different products ranging from Cramel Milk in Chicago to Standard Oil in Ohio.
Okay, buddy, what do you think of Cramel milk?
I never tasted it.
Now, what do you think of Cramel milk?
Like in Washington, D.C., these commercials were received warmly. Our experience is this. We put the Muppets on for Cramel Dairy about 6 years ago. At that time, Cramel ranked 23rd in sales among 50 Chicago dairies. 3 years later, Cramel ranked 5th. In Jim Cramel's own words, we have been around for 50 years. Until we had the Muppets, nobody had heard of us outside a 5-mile radius from the dairy. Today, everybody within 50 miles of Chicago knows Cramel Dairy. By all accounts, Jim's commercial production deal with Wilkins Coffee came to an end in 1961, with a total of 179 commercials being produced in a 4-year period. Even so, Wilkins and Wontkins regularly appeared on television screens somewhere in the U.S. for various companies until 1969. By this point, the commercials were in color, and the last batch were being produced for Community Coffee.
Want some community coffee before you jump?
No!
You miss a lot when you don't drink community coffee.
After the commercials were discontinued by Community in 1969, the puppets went into storage, never truly having a starring role in a Muppet production afterwards. A 1989 article from the Washington Post revealed that then Wilkins CEO Dan Abendson kept the original puppets in a safe deposit box at the bank near the company headquarters. Later on, rebuilt versions of the puppets were put on display in the Jim Henson's Fantastic World Traveling exhibit, with the original Wilkins becoming a part of the Smithsonian Museum. As for the commercials themselves, a good portion of them, as of this video, are lost. Like with Sam and Friends, which was recorded on Kinescope, Jim didn't feel the need to record his commercials unless he was trying something new with film techniques, or if he was reviewing aspects of his performance. Most of the footage of these commercials has been found by the Jim Henson legacy through various sources, ranging from internet auction sites such as eBay to donations from people who find old recordings in their attics and garages. Without a doubt, Wilkins and Wontkins, despite their relative obscurity in comparison to Henson's more successful works, played a part in developing Henson's style and humor that would appear in later Muppet productions and opened Jim up to the world of advertising, a world he would frequently do work in for the rest of his life.
I wouldn't admit this if I wasn't alone, but I really do like Wilkins coffee.
Did you call?
Ugh.